Hi. So to get things started, you can actually follow along live, maybe. If you go to that website, lazycoder.io/live, and you can actually pull it up on any of your mobile devices. And it should work, because it's working right now. So this is going to be awesome. So first off, who am I? I am the lead automation engineer at Revcontent. And I've been an automation engineer for my entire career. And I also run a website called LazyCoder that put all of my random thoughts on automation up on. Revcontent is the largest content recommendation planet in the world. We are responsible for those trending stories that you see at the bottom of your favorite websites. And we serve 250 billion ad recommendations every month. So before we get into Fluent testing, I want to go ahead and just go through some background of how I got to Fluent testing. And for many of you here, you've already experienced this journey as you've grown in your automation careers. And you have started off with a lot of the basic Selenium commands. Does anybody want to say what they are? Just yell it out loud. I'm fine with that. Find element, yes. What was that? Yes. And we also got the famous clicks and the dot and the gets. And what are some other ones? Input text, send keys. There we go. Cool. And those are the ones that you end up typing a lot. Click, get, send keys. Click, get, send keys. Click, get, send keys. And click, get, I really don't like typing those all the time. Okay? Does anybody love typing those all the time? Just go ahead and raise your hand. I kind of want to see people like here. You just had lunch. This is day one. You should be awake. So I get really tired of that. And once you get tired of that, some of your fellow automation engineers will tell you, there's a better way, man. Or you read online, yo guys, there's a better way. And those are page objects, right? And the first time you actually begin to use page objects, you actually get a sense of wonderment from it, because it's like, oh my God, why haven't I been using this before? This makes my life so much easier. I don't have to type click, get, wait, click, get, wait, click, get, wait. So, and you get this sense of understanding once you actually do it. And you feel like you can do anything at that point. Anything is possible with Selenium, and it is. That's why we're here at this conference, because you can do a whole lot of stuff with Selenium. And page objects begin to give you the fundamentals of any coding, which is reusable and maintainable stuff. And coming from my actual web design background as an intern in college, I saw the elegance in using page objects. And not just the elegance of it, but the ease of it that everyone can use. And has anyone here an actual web developer previously? We got a few web developers previously? Awesome. And as a web developer, you typically use frameworks to help you build all your sites. You got the Zerb framework or the Bootstrap framework just to make your life easier. And those have the exact same things. Those are the exact same things as page objects for test automation engineers, such as ourselves. And the whole question is, why can't we use the exact same things as they're using? And we should be. We use the exact same platform. We're all just messing around with web browsers, HTML, CSS, and our love affair of automating anything with JavaScript on it. Or not. I don't like automating anything with JavaScript. It's doable, but it's sometimes a pain. And has anybody here with Selenium experienced a full website redesign using Selenium? Yes, we got a few. Awesome. And for those of you who haven't experienced, be thankful. It's a nightmare. But the developers on your team will spend weeks, months, days and nights working on this stuff. And they'll finally send it to you in an incomplete state always. And within a few days, when you're using page objects, you will have it all done. You'll have it all updated, and all of your tests will still run. Oh, you got to be kidding me. Of course it wants to die now. 2 seconds here. Are we still good? We're still good. Sweet. Awesome. So that's probably going to happen again. This is going to be awesome. And so it takes the developers weeks, months, days, years, whatever, to actually finish it. And it takes you a few weeks to update all your stuff. And you're like, come on now, guys. What took you guys so long? And because of that, you begin to wonder, like, oh, there has to be a better way to do stuff. And this thing might want to go forward. Or not. Or not. Come on now. What took you so long? That would have been better if that was time, but oh well. And yes, I understand the irony of it actually finally showing up. So, and when you go and do the website redesign and you fixed all your page objects, you're actually looking at it, you're like, I've used this stuff before. Oh, I used that stupid method over there too. And I use that method over there too, and how many times did I create this method now? And then you start doing refactoring on all of your code. And that's pretty much how I do a whole lot of my refactoring is, hey, I saw that, and I saw that again, and why did I do it that way? So you begin to ask, like, oh, how can I reuse my methods in different classes? Right? And then you learn about abstraction, which within Selenium is the base page objects that you use. And when you start doing the base page object and you pull out a whole lot of your code into one object, which is amazing, you feel, again, like you understand it, everything makes more sense, and everything is possible all over again, and you get that sense of wonderment from when you first started using page objects that made your life so much better. And you also understand, like, why haven't I been doing this all along? And you'll probably come across this little acronym called DRY, which is don't repeat yourself. And I don't want to repeat myself saying don't repeat yourself. There we go. Awesome. And as soon as you start thinking of all your code in a dry sense, you are now have leveled up as an automation engineer. Congratulations, you are now version, of course it went away. There it goes. Version 2 of yourself, right? And as a lot of you have experienced, I'm using a whole lot of development-ish terms. I'm kind of making some stuff up here. Because I have great news for everybody here. It's the fact that you are all actually developers. Congratulations. You're no longer a software engineer in test, but you're actually a developer in test. So going back to sort of how I proceeded from that state to get to the Fluent tests, right? I've had the pleasure of working on no automation teams at all. I have been the sole automation engineer for all of my projects. And if I was lucky, I would have, if I was lucky, I was only working on one project. But good news, everybody, I'm not that lucky. I'm not. I'm flat out just not that lucky. I've had to work on 3, 4, 5 projects simultaneously. And by that, what I mean is I've had 3, 4, 5 Scrum meetings that I go to every day. And when you do that, you wonder, how do you get anything actually done? And I figured out how to get stuff done because I kept leveling up myself, upgrading my version, and becoming a better programmer. And then I came across the Fluent pattern. And I realized that it would help me out so much with my testing. And when you first come across Fluent testing, a bunch of the initial blog posts talks about method chaining. Does anyone here know what method chaining is? Just kind of curious. We got 20 people. Sweet. So you guys are all pros. You can just get up here and just do the rest of my presentation. That's fantastic. Here you go. What method chaining is that it makes sure that every method you have returns an object to use. You don't have that public void stuff. And the whole purpose of that is that it makes your methods flow into each other. That's method chaining. You go from one method to another method. And can you do better than just that? I got good news, everybody. Yes, you can. And it's technically called method cascading, but it's very similar to method chaining, so they're kind of used interchangeably. And I will show you a demo in like 5 slides. I lied. Next slide. And because of all this method cascading and method chaining, everything just sort of flows. So everyone wants to see the demo now. You just want me to shut up and just show you code, right? So using those two, this is a sample C# page object for the home page. There's a click on login button and a click on about button. And as you can see clearly, I am just the luckiest guy in the world right now. I told you I was lucky, right? Not really. No, I didn't. I'm not that lucky. So anyways, so we have the 2 different return statements returning that is invalid code. Awesome. The login page and the about page, and it happens right after you click the button that finds the login button or the about button. I didn't say this was fantastic code. So here is what the login page looks like, and it has one method in it called login with, and it's going to find the username, type in the username, find the password, type in the password, and click the submit button. It's shocking how logging in works, right? Nobody's ever written code like that before. And it actually returns a new page called the admin page. Yay. So who can compile this code in their head? There's probably like 20 of us that can. But this is what the test actually looks like. It's very simple. It is, look at that. It is 1 line of code for it, the entire test. It's homepage.go to login, .login with username and password. And with that, you're going to actually be on the admin page. The next line there is that assert contains that the page title is equivalent to what the driver is finding as the page title. Is that a pretty test or what? Anybody else want tests like that? Yeah, everybody likes tests like that. There's no real coding junk in it. I mean, you still have that var, and you still have that assert contains, and you know what? That's not that great, is it? It does still look ugly, right? Raise your hands if you think it's ugly. Yes, it is ugly. So then I determined, yes, that does look ugly. So I found out about Fluent assertions because I really want my test to be like English as possible so that there's less confusion on what is my code doing. And for these, there's a few different libraries that you can use. I'm not going to list them all. I have no idea how many there are. There's a bunch. But I'm just going to talk about some of the ones that I like. So for C#, there's the nfluent package. And the whole test is that check that, and then it just goes and does a login page, and then it's the exact same test. Make sure that it logs in, and the title is going to be dashboard. Does everybody like what that looks like more than the previous one? It's okay. It's okay. We'll go with that. For Python, there is assert.py. And I like it because it's very similar in nature to that. We have that assert statement first, home page, go to login with, and get the title and make sure it's equal to dashboard. Those weird slashes are how Python deals with multi-line statements. That's all it is to it. If you're using an IDE, you just go to that dot and you hit enter, and it's going to put that dash in for you. But these tests aren't really that great because we're just checking that the title equals dashboard, and we're not really doing anything complex. Most people here have tests that are more complex than just checking the page title, right? I thought so. And move on to the next slide. There we go, and more than just the current page. I'm sure a lot of you actually have to run database queries, right? and make sure that the actual username showed up in the database correctly. I mean, it's not the greatest use of Selenium, but a lot of us use it anyways. And for that, I would use just methods. Whoa now. Okay, methods. Just use methods. And you have the methods that you write that just return the database query value that you want to compare it to. Like, make sure that there's a new user that has the name of whatever I just typed in. And I'm going to get a lot of flack from this from a lot of the experienced people. I just put those into my page objects just to make it easier because, honestly, I'm not touching the username table besides when I'm making a new user. So I just slap them right there in the database title, in the login page object, and just make it simple. But can we do better? Anyone take a wild guess what my next slide's going to be? Yes, we can, and it probably just went past it, but whatever. Yes, we can, and we can actually just do a class and just have all the database queries that we have in there, and then we have just one class with all the database queries. And that's the most elegant solution, because then you know if you touch that file, there be dragons. And then for your tests, you just call them in as needed. Of course. I've tried this out like 3 times last night, and there's been no issues at all. But that's okay. And you call them in as needed. But now, what happens if you don't have as complex data as database queries? I mean, you're like creating new usernames, and you have to try out different combinations. I'm sure a bunch of you have that stuff, right? Everyone's still asleep. Awesome. For that sort of stuff, I just use dictionaries. And we know what dictionaries are. Yes, and we're not talking about the books, though. Does everybody know that we're not talking about the books? Excellent. For those of you who do not know and have started this journey on Selenium, dictionaries are essentially key value stores within different programming languages. And the first time you use it, you will be wondering, Andrew, you over-engineered this thing way too much. Which, for the first few tests, yes, I did completely over-engineer it. However, apparently. So the best way to set up your dictionary is to have it set up for a string as the key and store an object. That way you can store whatever data you want. You have integers, you have strings, you might send it an array. It doesn't matter, it always takes it, and you can just call it back whenever you want. And don't worry, you'll see this later. But then after you do test number 300 or somewhere around there, you're going to realize that, oh wait, this is fantastic. I have all the test resources that I put into that dictionary. And because of that pattern you've established, you have created a domain-specific language, or DSL, which then makes your life so much simpler because it's less stuff you have to remember. You don't have to remember what variable name you saved it as. You don't have to remember for that class or this class. You don't have to remember any of that. You know what's going to be in that dictionary. And that establishes a pattern. Yes. Now, once you've started establishing your own programming pattern, guess what? You are now Automation Engineer version 3. Awesome. Everyone likes to be version 3 already? Excellent. Let's do this. So I guess that means I'm done with my presentation, right? There's no more to go. Anyone thinks there's more to go? Yeah, there's more to go. So is there any more growth? And guess what? There is. And that's sort of the stuff this is the stuff that I really want to get into because this is where all the fun and happiness happens. And at this point, once you're doing all of that yourself, you then start reading more and more development blogs because you're like, they're doing some really cool stuff. They've been doing it for years. I want to do that stuff too. So you learn about generics, right? Now, generics are a little weird, and the syntax is really weird, but you do cool stuff. And generics are a type without it's a type, not just a child of a parent object. So it extends it, it inherits it, but it has all the same stuff as the parent method does. Now, how many people of you read the description of this presentation and was like, he's going to talk about Java, C#, and Python, and yet he still hasn't talked about Java yet? Anybody notice that? A few people have. I congratulate you. Thank you for appeasing me and pretending that you did. So what we have here is a Java generic base page. It has been fully genericified. I have no idea if that's a word, probably not, but I'm just going to make stuff up. We'll just pretend it's an official word. So here we have the return statement has a P in front of the this. And what that's saying is that this is a very generic one. Anyone that inherits this class can use it. And this is where it gets really cool, because go to the next slide. Yeah, there we go. So these are 3 different tests that all use the exact same methods, and it doesn't matter which order I put them in because they always have those same methods. So there we have the home page. Title should be expected, and it actually looks at the home page and has variables to make sure that the title is the right one. Ditto with the about page, ditto with the tutorial page. But if you noticed, was the fact that it didn't actually have that much code in there. Whoa, no, we want to go up a little bit. There wasn't really that much code. It was literally just that one title should be expected, save to report, assert equals this and this, and done. That's it. That's all we do. And actually from that title should be expected, I can do anything else I want. I can do another click. I can do another go to different page. Doesn't matter. Now, as you saw in that base page object, you're probably wondering, what were those funny steps that you did? Probably a lot of you were thinking that same thing, right? Probably thinking this guy's kind of weird. It's okay. I agree with you. And those funny steps are coming from the Allure framework. Has anybody had any experience with the Allure framework? A few people have. Sweet. So you're a pro. You can take this presentation over, right? Please, go right ahead. No, I'm fine. You'll just have me talk about it, right? Awesome. So specifically, what you saw there were sub-steps. And this is the report that Allure generates. And you see that funny little plus sign right there? That means there's a sub-step there. So what happened there was in the method for navigating to that page, there's another step, and it takes a screenshot. Now, how many people love to have screenshots in their test reports? It makes everything cool, spiffy, fancy, and I know all the project managers love seeing pretty reports. And that's what the screenshot looks like. And I don't really have to do anything on that anymore. I don't have to specify that I want it to take a screenshot every single time I navigate to a page. I just tell it navigate to a page, and that just happens for me automatically. With the frameworks that I've built, it's the same thing that happens for all the different elements that get clicked anytime you type in text. You type in text, it's going to take a screenshot of just the element that is in question, the one that you're typing into, so you can actually see what it actually typed in, and then save it to the screen, save it to the report, which makes your life so much easier, because then you don't have to sit through logs and try and figure out where did everything go wrong. So does everyone like what I've had so far? So far, okay. To summarize what I've sort of covered in a very long and roundabout way. Please don't go to sleep. Is method star, mainly because there's not enough space to put method cascading and chaining, but they're essentially the same thing. Going over using Fluent assertions. I went into generics, which is fun, dandy, and all that fun stuff. And just to remind you the fact that you are all now developers in the world of Selenium. You probably will not, we will all not be like the next Mark Zuckerberg or anything, and that's okay. But we're functional developers. We write the tests that gives our business the most value. Now, the good news is that all my projects will be on GitHub shortly. I will upload them all with all the fun stuff in Python, Java, and C# so you can play around with it, have fun with it, and experience it for yourselves how to use it, and then copy all the code and put it into your own stuff. Let's be honest, that's what we're all going to do. You can follow me at lazycoder.io. I will put the status update when I actually publish those on there. And now, who's ready for the fun and enjoyable section of doing Q&A? Sweet. I ended 5 minutes earlier than I wanted to. So we got one guy up in the front right here. All right.
Okay, thank you for your talk. So there are some drawbacks of Fluent objects, and one of them is, for example, that as you may know, you actually in your page object do not know to which page I go. Just do not always know. Just example, login. If you do it with right credential, you will go to the admin page. If you do it with wrong credential, you will stay at the same page. So basically,
Correct.
the common solution is to do two methods. So it's getting messy.
Yeah.
And, perhaps another point is that, okay, as far as I understood, you're trying to do a really long Fluent combination for also for long scenarios. That means so assertions are also Fluent. Is it right?
Yes, all the assertions.
So everything is Fluent. Okay.
Yeah, everything else is Fluent.
Okay.
Yeah.
In my opinion, in some cases, you would be losing your context if you are trying to read the longer scenarios. Like you would it would no more be obvious on which page, on which element would you be if you have a longer scenario. Of course, for a short scenario, it's everything simple.
Yep. So.
Okay, so that's 2 points. Perhaps you could
Yes.
give some answers.
Yes. So what I showed you on some of those were not the full classes there because I really don't want to scroll up here for hours and hours. But so I actually have a whole bunch of methods to go to each different page. If I know the test is like a failing test and it's not actually going to go to that page, I'm going to make sure I throw the assertion there. In terms of really long tests, that's the benefit of using the method chaining and method cascading. Is as soon as you put the dot and you're using an IDE, it only gives you the next set of commands. So it's only going to show you what are next available on the next page because of the method chaining and method cascading.
It's perfect to write, but not so easy to maintain because later on you forget about what are these options. Yes, it's right. It's so easy.
Yeah.
It's easy to create those tests.
Okay, so just repeat. So yes, for sure, it's easy to create this test because you are getting help from EDIs. That's the benefit, and the drawback is then after you have to maintain the test. So just understand what these 30 Fluent operations are doing. When something in the middle is breaking, it's not obvious from reading. So of course, if you click around, you will understand on which page are you at the moment. So. It's my experience.
Yeah, I haven't. From what I've done with all the generic usages, I haven't had those problems with it because I have very few amount of page objects that I'm actually going to be using on each page, and then when it actually throws the debugger or there's an error, it fails on that class, so I know exactly what the problem is. And then it's usually multiple things that all fail at the same spot. So I know that method needs to be fixed, and then I just go ahead and fix that one, and then everything else makes me happy because it fixes itself as well. Any other questions? Let's go with you. Yes. Sorry, I didn't see you there.
I actually use the Fluent interface very much.
Yep.
We have over 100,000 test script with over 50 applications, and
Yep.
we actually follow this one religiously. Every single script. We use Fluent interface as abstraction layer on top of technical layer, instead of using VDD or keyword driven or anything.
Yep, yep.
We actually did more even our application requires a lot of parameter to be send, and it's very difficult to understand when you want to send a parameter as a method parameter versus like when we actually do it as a Fluent wise.
Yep.
So we can send, suppose we need to send 5 parameters, and then we can say, okay, now send something like that. So it's a very cool idea. And
for a lot of those, for a lot of different parameters that I'm going to be drilling into the tests, I typically just pull that out as an enum for different options,
we do that.
and then put the enums up in the test case source.
The Fluent interface, like it's one of the best things. I think like in all the testing engineer, we should start using this way
Yeah.
because it actually reduces the refactoring later on so much. When you have to refactor the test, it's much easier. Tests become very easy to maintain and reuse.
Yep, and that's why I like it too, because for whatever reason, whenever I've used the business-driven development, BDD, the Gherkin style language, as soon as I hand that off to anybody else who's not like a serious nerd, they just look at it like, what is this English? And it's like, yes, it's English. It's just follow it through, and there's typically sub-lane box with that. Whereas with the Fluent interface, it's an English sentence with dots instead of spaces.
Yeah, we just say like write a sentence in a scenario in sentence, get rid of space, replace with dot. That's it.
Yep. Any other questions? There has to be like 5 billion more.
Thank you.
Because I don't over-exaggerate. Yes?
Would you recommend having assertions in page objects or in tests?
It depends on what you're trying to, what the end goal ends up being. I end up switching it up based on what I'm actually trying to do. Like I know like failing tests, I don't want to put the failing, functionality inside of the page objects, because that's an anti-pattern. I don't want that to happen. If this test is supposed to fail, you have to put work into it to make sure it fails. Whereas most of the stuff with any of the Fluent interface, it should be smooth. In terms of putting the assertion inside of the methods, depends on what you're trying to do with it. Because sometimes there's like soft assertions that you're doing. Like for one of my tests that I have, I essentially am doing a soft assertion before the actual assertion occurs, because if the soft assertion fails, then the whole test will bomb anyways. So I can kill it like 5 minutes early. Actually, it's 20 minutes early. So it does a soft assertion. If the soft assertion fails, then congratulations, this test will fail in 30 minutes. So just kill it now. Did that answer your question enough? Sweet. Other questions? Yes, we got one over there. I thought I saw one in the back too.
Hi, similar to the thing he had mentioned with going to an error state or to a successful login page, do you have a pattern to address when you have pages that, based on the state of the back end, determines which page that they actually get redirected to? Or do you end up writing 4 or 5 methods that return the other pages?
Oh, for like when you're doing, like you're logging into the system, but you know if you put in / settings, you're going to go straight into the settings instead of the normal dashboard page?
No, say if you're on a page where you can purchase something, and you're only allowed to purchase it once every 24 hours. If you haven't purchased it, you click the button, and then you'll go to an order form. If you have purchased it and you click the button, then it would take you to another page to tell you that you've already purchased something.
Yeah, you can always just straight up initialize what the next class will be anyways. Yeah, you can just tell it to it's going to be this page next, instead of what it actually gets loaded.
Right, but on the returns, then you'd either have to be generic of some type.
Yeah. You end up telling what the next type is going to be, and that overrides what the normally is going to be loaded.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yes, back there.
Can you please elaborate more on how you come up with the pattern?
With the pattern, my entire career just troubleshooting myself. Essentially 5 years of just troubleshooting myself, because as the only automation engineer, we had like 3 of them come in and out for like a 2-month period of time. I had to maintain and support all that stuff, and you can even ask my wife, who's here this week, how many hours I was spent just maintaining stuff. And after you spend hour number 90 on the fifth, sixth week in a row, you're just like, there has to be a better way. And then I actually just spent a lot of time figuring out the best way I can do stuff so that I reduce the amount of code I'm actually writing, reduce the amount of maintenance that I'm running. Does that answer your question?
So do you document this or just combine?
Yes, it was documented completely in the last company, and then still in the process of documenting all the stuff that I've done, but all the documentation will be on the GitHub projects that I post.
Well, thank you.
Any other questions? Like there has to be more questions. Everyone's this awesome. They just like, yes, I understand this completely. I'm going to implement it now. That is awesome. I love this group. You can just stay with me for the rest of the week. I'm cool with that. Any other questions? Yes. What? Go ahead. Go ahead. You could.
Yeah, I'm just wondering, how did you go by to learn generics?
Trial and error. So the question was, how did I come across learning about generics? And it was literally just reading about more and more development stuff and like, okay, how do they make their lives easier? And I was like, they keep using this generics thing. Maybe I should play with it. And then while playing with it, I feel like, okay, we can bend this to my will. This is my world. I will make it my own. That's why all developers become developers anyways. They're their own little god in their own little world. So we just get to do the same thing without business writing requirements for us. Cool. Any other questions? Oh, there has to be more. Yes.
With the Java 8 generics, you can actually take it one step further. A lot of time when you want to do the method cascading, instead of returning self, you can actually return the other object, like what you want to do. So you just have to pass it with the class instance creation with the generics. You can actually pass multiple instances there. Yeah,
that's the method cascading is when you return a new object. Because you can just return whatever object you want, and that's what, you can actually, I think you could do that I think you can do it before 8. I think it's been in there since 6.
Also the interface implementation with the
Oh, okay.
So you can actually do a lot more cool stuff with
Yeah.
that. I've done it and it's very nice.
Oh yeah. I keep diving more and more into it as I build out my new suite for all the new tests I've created. And yes, I've already seen a whole lot of stuff that I'm like, I want to make this better. But yeah, I'm definitely going to put that into the GitHub project. Any other questions? Yes, that's right.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hi. What happens if you have an existing test automation suite and you want to implement this? What do you recommend in refactoring, or how do you approach implementing this, and how do you approach your fellow QA engineers to buy into this framework?
All the QA people I've tried to train and make them become full-on engineers, I mainly just have them working on the test themselves and not the actual framework, because I know I'm going to lose them real fast because they don't have that much experience with it. But as they write more and more tests, they realize that, oh yeah, that is powerful. You can get a whole lot of more stuff out of it. And they quickly learn the different patterns that I'm using, because there usually ends up being like a secondary abstraction layer that I'm doing right before they see all the code. And that way they see some of the more easier methods being used, like an abstraction of the base page object, essentially. So they see that and they're like, okay, I just use these methods and I can do whatever I want with the system. And it's like, yes, use those methods, and those all fall back onto the generics. And then to convert all of your stuff, I would first start off with, just start off the same way I did. Start off with method chaining, method cascading. So like when you click on the login button, just have it return the next page that you're going to go to. And just slowly build it out from there. Answer your question? Good? Sweet. There has to be more questions.
Hi.
Yes?
When you have a large team and hundreds, in some cases thousands of test cases, how do you stop different engineers to recreating methods and functions that already exist? How do you make it easy for them to find what's already there before reinventing the wheel?
Oh yeah, so Are these all on one team? Yeah. So I end up putting all the packages within the same pattern of what the URL is. So if it's in like /admin/settings/user locale, if you follow the source package, that's exactly where it's going to be for all the page objects. It's going to follow exactly what's up in the URL so that it's easy to find. It's like just find the one it's already there. If it's not there, I'm pretty sure it is, and look again. Any more questions? One more question.
We have one more?
I'm hoping. Yes.
About the screenshots,
Yeah.
you take the screenshots of each step, does it slow down? What I have seen, I can just tell you my experience. We capture videos, and that helps us tremendously. That basically, folks who are running the automation outside of automation team, they just watch the video, find the issue, and report it to development instead of bugging the automation team. So I don't know if you have any experience with our video side. And also, as far as the screenshots, what we do in our framework, we dump all these failures in one bucket. Anyone, while the tests are running, bucket is populating with failure screenshots. So if something looks suspicious, you don't have to look at all the go through each test case. You just look at the screenshot. The screenshot has the names and stuff for the test cases. So that's how we do it.
Yeah, I do have experience recording the tests as they run. And the first few times I was like, this is cool. This is like the best thing since sliced bread. But then it became a problem of storing all the videos on my system. And the second biggest problem was the fact that nobody would actually watch them, and they would just say, stuff broke, please fix. Which I'm like, that's a great description. What were you looking at? The website, obviously. Okay, can you give me some more details? Let's do this. Can you watch the video and see what happens? And you could do that. So I like the idea of all the video testing, and I do like the fact that Sauce Labs records it for you automatically, and you don't have to maintain it yourself. So that's why I fall back to just using screenshots of everything, because they can typically just look. You just have to look through all the different steps, and if the test fails, it's probably going to be the last step that failed, so you can just open up the screenshot there. Cool. Any other questions? Nope. I've answered all your questions successfully, and you are not going to try and pick my brains out for little good morsels of information? Nope. All right, then. Oh, whoa. Yes, I squeezed one out.
I can just yell. So you talked a little bit about how you were working, 90 hours a week on your maintenance and how, I wonder all of these strategies and things of that down. Can you explain specifically the advantages of any of these strategies and how this helps you maintain your stuff?
So the first framework that I had, it was a whole lot of the first stuff. Driver find this, driver find that, driver click this, driver click that. And that was like all the tests. So obviously moving to page objects, that reduced a whole lot of stuff. And then moving on to method training and method cascading, I'd have to go into modify whenever like the login changed a little bit. And like for one of the examples, we actually had the login was now going to go to a brand new page if you logged in with certain logins. So I actually created just a little overloaded method that would automatically use the new one and send it to the new pages. And over the course of a few years, using all those techniques and all those steps, I made it so that I could actually do that for 5 projects simultaneously. So I was the sole QA engineer sole test automation QA engineer for 5 projects. That position is still open if anybody wants it. Nobody wants it? They haven't even touched my desk yet. That it still looks like I left it with 20 computers all hooked up together and about 50 mobile devices. So anybody who wants it, you're glad to take it.
Yeah, you're not selling it with a 90-hour work week.
I know. That's what I cut it down to. No, I'm joking. But
all right,
go ahead.
Thank you for